covering climate, weather, and the industrial enterprise from Penn State Meteorology. Here is Up in the Air.
Welcome to this week's episode of Up in the Air. I'm Kasey Rigner.
And I'm Ryan Gold. We have a great show for you today with stories about ice quakes and even sinkholes in zoos. And we have a feature from Mackenzie Williams about how climate change affects hurricanes.
All that and more, but first, here's Update in the Air.
For the first time ever, NASA has captured images of interacting shock waves from two jets flying faster than the speed of sound. The pictures were made during tests of upgraded equipment that can capture high-quality images of shock waves, which are the rapid pressure changes produced when a plane flies at supersonic speeds. When an aircraft exceeds the speed of sound around 700 miles per hour, the shock waves merge and a sonic boom is created. NASA says that images system will be used to test the design of the X-59 Quiet Supersonic Technology X-plane, which will fly faster than the speed of sound, but its shock waves will produce a quiet rumble instead of a boom.
Dinosaurs were unaffected by long-term climate changes and flourished before their sudden demise by asteroid strike. Scientists agree that an asteroid impact, possibly paired with intense volcanic activity, wiped out the dinosaurs at the end of the Cretaceous period 66 million years ago. However, there is debate about whether dinosaurs were thriving before this or whether they had been in decline due to long-term changes in climate over millions of years. In a new analysis that models the changing environment and dinosaur species distribution in North America, researchers from several British universities have shown that dinosaurs were likely not in decline before the meteorite. The study, published today in Nature Communications, shows how the changing conditions for fossilization means previous analyses have underestimated the number of species at the end of the Cretaceous period. During this period, the U.S. was split in two by a large inland sea. In the western half, there was a steady supply of sediment from the newly forming Rocky Mountains, which created perfect conditions for fossilizing dinosaurs once they died. The eastern half of the continent was instead characterized by conditions far less suitable for fossilization. This means that far more dinosaur fossils are found in the western half, and it is this fossil record that is often used to suggest dinosaurs were in decline for the few million years before the asteroid strike.
What would you say is the most dangerous thing in a zoo? Well, if you're in Louisville, it's a sinkhole the size of a football field. Zoo staff found the sinkhole at around 8:30 in the morning last Wednesday during a routine walkthrough, and it was reported that no animals, people, or buildings were harmed. It is estimated that the sinkhole is about 50 by 85 yards and around 50 feet deep. The likely cause of this hole was rain runoff underground. Louisville experienced its 7th wettest February on record with around 8.4 inches. This, coupled with the 70% of the zoo sitting over the Louisville mega cavern, could have created the perfect combination for the sinkhole to form.
Some wetlands perform better under pressure. A new study revealed that when faced with sea level rise, coastal wetlands respond by bearing even more carbon in their soils. Coastal wetlands, which include marshes, mangroves, and seagrasses, already store carbon more efficiently than many other natural ecosystems, including forests. The latest study looked at how coastal wetlands worldwide react to rising sea levels and discovered they can rise to the occasion, offering additional protection against climate change. To get a global picture, scientists from Australia, China, South Africa, and the U.S. pooled data from 345 wetland sites on 6 continents. They looked at how those wetlands stored carbon for up to 6,000 years and compared whether sea levels rose, fell, or stayed mostly the same over the millennia. The extra boosts came because the carbon added to wetland soils by plant growth and sediment is buried faster as wetlands become more wet. Trapped underwater with little to no oxygen, the organic debris does not decompose and release carbon dioxide as quickly. And the higher the water rises, the more underwater storage space exists for the carbon to get buried. For coastal wetlands to survive, they need to space to migrate inland. Whether they have enough space depends largely on how society prioritizes many competing goals. One thing is certain: with climate change ramping up, wetlands can protect people in more ways than one, if given enough breathing room.
Congress approved a bill that will add over 1 million acres of public land, creating 5 new national monuments, expand multiple existing national parks, and bring back a popular conservation program. This measure promises to create nearly 700,000 acres of new recreation and conservation areas, remove 370,000 acres of Montana and Washington land from mineral development, and designate more than 350 miles of river as wild and scenic. The bill would permanently authorize the Federal Land and Water Conservation Fund, which supports conservation and outdoor recreation projects across the country. Environmental groups and lawmakers from both parties said they were proud and excited about this bill. Maybe there are some things that can unite even the most opposite of parties.
Stay overnight on an Antarctic ice shelf and you may feel the shaking from thousands of tiny quakes. Scientists placed seismometers on the McMurdo ice shelf and recorded hundreds of thousands of tiny ice quakes that appear to be caused by pools of partially melted ice expanding and freezing at night. This occurrence may be able to help scientists track glacier melting and to help explain the breakup of large ice shelves. Climate change is causing the Antarctic to melt, but glaciologists are still mapping how, where, and why. There's much we still don't understand about the process, as evidenced by massive Larsen B ice shelf collapse in 2002, which took glaciologists by surprise. And understanding these mechanisms is key to predicting the future for the ice. The research team set up seismometers for 60 days during the melt season in 2 locations near seasonal meltwater lakes on the McMurdo ice shelf. One was drier, the other was slushier, with pools of melted water forming and freezing. The wetter location they found was alive with seismic activity at night. The discovery adds an important piece to our understanding of the physics and processes around melting ponds on ice shelves. Welcome back to the show. We now turn to a feature from Mackenzie Williams about how climate change affects hurricanes.
We've learned in class, and the science presents, that most of the global warming observed over the past half-century is likely due to human-caused greenhouse gas emissions. But how could that get disastrous? Well,
models project a 45 to 87% increase in the frequency of Category 4 and 5 hurricanes in the future. And 8 of the 10 costliest hurricanes on record in the United States have occurred since 2004. According to the Center for Climate and Energy Solutions, also known as C2ES. So why are hurricanes intensifying? Warmer ocean temperatures and higher sea levels are intensifying the impacts of hurricanes. C2ES explains how warmer sea surface temperatures are intensifying tropical storm wind speeds, which are causing more damage when storms make landfall. This warmer water is also leading to storms producing more precipitation. In 2017, Hurricane Harvey showed how precipitation can leave a destructive impact. According to the National Hurricane Center, Harvey was the most significant tropical cyclone rainfall event in the United States history, with the highest storm rainfall total being 60.58 inches near Nederland, Texas. Climate change is also contributing to a rise in sea levels as polar ice caps are melting. As sea levels continue to rise, more coastal storms will occur and the coastal storm surge will increase, which intensifies the impact of hurricanes like Sandy, according to C2ES. During Hurricane Sandy, the NOS tide gauges in the New York City area measured record storm tides. At Battery, the storm tide reached 14.06 feet, which was 4.6 feet higher than the previous record, as stated by the National Hurricane Center.
as you can see, there's a strong scientific connection between the physical manifestation of global warming, warmer oceans and higher sea levels, and the intensity of hurricanes. However, a connection between hurricane frequency and global warming is less straightforward.
Welcome back to the show. We're back from spring break, Ryan, but this past week felt more like spring than our break did.
That's actually a really good point, because I remember coming back on Sunday after break and the heat hit me as soon as I got out of my car. It was surprising and I was not ready for it.
I enjoyed it. I love it.
I liked it too. But
Let's head over to Joe at the Climate Wall to see if we have more spring weather in store for the week to come. Joe?
All right, thanks, Kasey and Ryan. I'll tell you a little bit more about that coming up in the temperature outlook and maybe even in the weekend forecast. But first, let's take a look at the climate info for March 14th. An average high of 46 degrees, an average low of 38, and a nice, balmy, warm 80 degrees as a high measured back in 1990, and our record low coming in at -1 back in 1993. And as we take a look at what next week for March 19th to March 25th for the temperature outlook, the country is looking a little messy where we have spots coming in all over the place. We have an above normal chance for temperature coming in at the Great Lakes, concentrating a lot in Wisconsin. As we move along the northern border, we see over in the Dakotas and even in parts of Montana, we see a below normal chance for temperatures. And as we look at the western part of the country, that's a lot of above normal chances coming in from the western edge of Washington and coming down into Arizona, a high concentration of above normal temperatures in the Four Corner region, but skipping a bit over in Northern California, but I'm sure they won't mind. And as we take a look into the southeast and south portion, for the first time in a while, we're seeing below normal chances down in Florida, and we see that big stretch coming in all the way out from Texas and reaching up into even Virginia. And now as we take a look in our area, we're right on the borderline where we have some above normal chances and below normal chances right around us. And as we take a look into precipitation, this is pretty split. Coming in along the Rocky Mountains is the border, and we see in the eastern part of the country we have a lot of chances for below normal precipitation. As we head down into the Ohio Valley and the southeast portion of the country, we see we have below normal chances for precipitation, and we also have that coming in the Dakotas and even parts of Montana as well. And again, as we head into the western part of the country, we have above normal chance for precipitation coming in along the northern parts of California, reaching up into Oregon and Washington, and then it skips over Arizona and keeps going down south, reaching into a lot of Texas. And as we head into Florida, again, we see some above normal chances for precipitation, but in our area, we have that below normal chance, and I'm sure after all the snow we've had, it'll be nice to get a break from that. And now as we head into drought, again, we have that concentration of drought coming in the Four Corners region, but now it's moving a little south, coming down into New Mexico, and isn't as intense as we've seen it before. And as we reach up back into what we were looking at in Oregon, again, it's dropping in its intensity a little bit. And then again, we have the drought coming in Florida, not as intense as it was before, and now we even have some reaching up into South Carolina and even parts of North Carolina. But in our area, we aren't experiencing any drought, and it doesn't look like we'll be experiencing it anytime soon either. And as we take a look at snow, again, the Sierra Nevada mountains are getting hit, and they're getting hit hard with all that snow. And as we hit the northern part of the Rockies, they also have some snow, but not as intense as what we've seen before. And that trend carries over into the northern part of the United States, reaching over into the Great Lakes. And in our area, a little bit of snow depth coming in, and as we head up to northern parts of New England, it gets a little deeper. And now let's take a look at what I said in our weekend forecasts to see if that spring temperature is going to come around. Doesn't look like it that much. For Saturdays, it's partly sunny, and we'll have a high of 38, but then it clears up on Sunday with mostly sunny and a high of 42. So Kasey and Ryan at the desk, doesn't look like spring's coming that quickly.
Well, it's a shame that we're not going to be having that warmth that we wanted, but
I'm so upset.
we do know it's going to be coming though.
At least we have the sun. Can't complain when we have the sun.
Exactly.
Hopefully next week, maybe we'll be in the 50s next weekend. So make sure you tune in with us next week, Up in the Air.